Hello, and welcome to this week's version of Get Booked. What version is it? It's historical fiction.
Woohoo!
But historical fiction...
Epistolary version, which means it's told in letters, diaries, journals, text. Text if you're a teenager, sometimes. Yeah, so this one, I gotta be real honest. I love epistolary novels. Historical was really hard to find.
I know. I was thinking about this initially, and I was like, oh, we could use it. Nope, that's not historical. Nope, that's not historical. Oh, there's this one and this one. Nope, that's not historical. I also had to dig a little bit, and then some of my books weren't on the shelf. You pulled one of them.
I did! It's Dracula!
I just found out, apparently, our copy of Carrie has been missing for 10 years. What?
Sigh.
I
should
know.
reorder that.
I know, which is one of those books that, like, it was a historical fiction when it came out, but now it is historical fiction. It's all written in, like, diary and letters and stuff from the 70s.
So, fun fact, fun potential fact, there have been people who have said that Stephen King wrote Carrie, and then he wrote his next book, which I can't remember, I don't know. I'm not a Stephen King reader because horror, no thank you. But they said if he was publishing in today's world, he might have been pigeonholed into YA, because technically a lot of his characters are teenagers. And I was like, ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
About
I never
King
thought
as, like,
about that, but yeah, not, like, his current stuff, but definitely...
No, but, like, in the beginning of his career, a lot of the first ones were teenager-oriented. And we didn't really have a lot of YA in the 70s.
We didn't, yeah, because there's Carrie, Christine...
That's the second one, yeah.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. We have a teen that was always like, your wife is named after the car? And I'm like, no, shut up. Every week. I miss that kid. I miss being open to not virtual programming, but like regular in-person programming. Anyway, there's that one, and there's the other one. There's a bunch of them that are in the short stories too. Technically, it is like a combination of like childhood and adult, like...
Parallel narratives!
Yes. Yeah, because it takes place in the 70s. I think, or 60s. I don't remember. I read that book once, and I don't ever want to read it again. It scared me. I was not afraid of clowns, and then I read it, and no thank you. Like, all the kids when it came out were like, are you gonna watch it? I'm like, no thank you. Like, you tell me all about it.
Hard pass. Don't even tell me about it. I don't even want to know.
But we digress. So let's talk about historical fictions with letters, journals, diaries, things you write down. Alright, what do you got first?
Dracula!
The classic.
Classic!
This is the one I was looking for.
Vampires! Best friends! Creepy castle! Gothic! Written in letter forms.
Cool. What does Gothic mean?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's cool. I got this because we did it on the book jam for the other book that I reviewed this week. It's like a Gothic novel. There's like Gothic romance, there's Gothic horror, and usually what really kind of makes it Gothic is like they are very dark and brooding novels. So you feel that with the characters, with the atmosphere. Yeah, there's also usually a sense of isolation, which you really get in Dracula because people just drop like flies, and no one's listening to the protagonist. Like, what happens? But yeah, so that's kind of the Gothic horror style. Or it could be romance, like your Wuthering Heights or your Rebecca.
No. Wuthering Heights is not a romance.
It's considered a Gothic romance, but
yeah, but it's not a romance.
We're talking like lit theory criticism. Yes, for your new version of like what is romance. Like I know, like there's the newer version of like what romance is, but we're talking with like historical. Like yeah, no, it's cool. See,
anyways,
we need to get to the books and less of the arguing. All right, so my first book is a YA. This author actually just released a book that was a adult book for a change. So it is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. This came out, probably like 20 years ago. It's Charlie doesn't quite fit in. He doesn't know where he fits in high school. It's all of his journal. We know very early on that something has happened to Charlie to kind of like make him the way he is, in the sense that something not good, like he has a past trauma. So content warning on that one. This does have some child abuse aspects to it. But he's trying to fit in, and he's trying to figure out who his friends are, and so he kind of like gets this really group of like oddball weird kids, and it's great. It's very much a slice of life way, and for teens that are looking for something that's like what the 90s were like, this is pretty good because it takes place, I believe, in 1991 or 1992, when I was in high school. And you were in high school. August 25th, 1991.
No.
That's because you're younger than me.
1991 was like 6th grade, 5th grade.
Maybe you're right. I'm not good with time. Anyway, it's a great book. You will make you cry, but it also has some really great, like, uplifting moments as well. What's your next book?
My next book is Daddy Longlegs. So if you... This is kind of similar to, like, a Louisa May Alcott. It has that nice, nostalgic, historical feeling. So this is... I forget the main character's name. I read this years and years ago. Oh, wow. I can't say her name. It's the J one.
Jerusha.
I have a really hard time pronouncing people's names. So she's an orphan. She has a benefactor who decides to send her to a nice, proper, I don't know if it's a boarding school. I think it's boarding school. And he writes her a letter and he signs it like Mr. John Smith. And so she writes to him about like her education and things going on in her life. And it's just a really nice Louisa May Alcott type story. Anna Green Gables type story. This is in our children's department, but it would probably be like more middle grade YA-ish. She is 17, but it does have like that nostalgic factor, so that's usually why it's in the children's department.
Cool. So my next book is a World War II historical fiction. So this one is called Rose Under Fire by Elizabeth Wein. She also wrote Cody and Verdi, which is kind of like a classic, I guess you would say now. Like everybody loves it. I've not read that one. So with this one, it's pretty cool. So it's like kind of taken in a journal and like report. Like she's writing her reports because she's a pilot. So Rose is she's a pilot and she's also an amateur poet. So woven throughout the novel is also her poetry, which is pretty great. So she gets captured by the Nazis and sent to Ravensbrück, the notorious women's concentration camp. And so there she meets some other people. So she meets like a once glamorous French novelist, a young Polish girl who's been used for medical experiments by the Nazis, and also a female fighter pilot for the Soviet Air Force. And so basically it's a story of them being trapped into like pretty bleak conditions and like how do you survive in that type of environment. So yes, it is very good.
My last one is called Last Christmas in Paris, which I haven't read yet, but it is on my to-read list. And this is during World War I. I'm just going to read the back quickly, because I think it looks really great. Thomas Harding travels to the City of Lights, a packet of cherished letters in his hand. Letters that tell the story of love and loss and friendship and family and the innocent hopes of a generation devastated by war. As he reads the letters one more time, Tom is transported back to 1914 and the sunlit August day when Evie Elliott waves goodbye to him and his brother and her brother Will as they head to the Western Front. So it also has that dual narrative, parallel narrative that we were talking about, which is also on some of those bingo cards. So it's kind of decades later and then also World War II. And so the Christmas part is that everyone thought that the war would be over by Christmas and they would all be together and celebrating. And of course, that war dragged on for years. Sadly.
Cool. So my next book is a classic. Is The Color Purple. Have you read this one?
I have not read that one.
It's very good. It's by Alice Walker. I had watched the movie, I think, when I was in middle school, and I was like, oh, I should read the book. And then I did, and it was great. And so this came out in the 80s, but it's basically the story of Yeah. So one of the main characters is Celie, who is I thought I could talk about this and I can't. And then there's also her sister Nettie, Celia's living in a pretty bad scenario. Her husband, like, basically married her when she was a child, and also, like, raped her. Like, it's a lot of not great stuff. And this takes place, I want to say, like, post-Civil War. But anyway, my whole point is, it also has a lot of cool stuff in it too, because Nettie is, like, also a missionary, and so she's sending letters back, and they're going back and forth. At some point, Celia meets Shug, who's kind of like this larger-than-life woman kind of figure, and it does have a bit of an LGBT story in it as well, so that also checks off another bingo card square for us. So it's pretty good. The movie is a little bit different, of course. There always is a little bit different. But it's really good. Like, it's pretty eye-opening, so you should totally read it if you haven't. Also, it's Women's History Month, so definitely read a book written by a woman that's historical fiction about other women. Cool. And I guess I'll go again, because I managed to pull 4. I thought you were going to have, like, 6 books, so I, like, was really digging.
All of my epistolary novels are, like, emails, texts, letters, like, but they're all present day.
It's okay. I mean, hey, I really wanted to do Carrie, but it's missing. I should replace it. Alright, so my next one is the Chilberry Ladies Choir. This is pretty great. So, this is World War II, but instead of it being, like, on the front, or, like, invading lines, or, like, spies or anything, it's not. It's a domestic story at home. So it's all of the women in this village that are part of the Chilbury Ladies Choir. And it's all of their stories about, like, their husbands and brothers and sons being at war, and, like, how they're keeping the home front safe for themselves, and, like, kind of, trying to coalesce together and whatnot. So it's a different story than, like, say, my other one where, like, the girls in the concentration camp. But, like, it's another lens of World War II historical fiction that you can see. So, there we go. I think that's it. Do you want to talk about our last little thing?
Yes. So, we've been talking about our prizes, and we've got our fancy coffee mug. But now we have a new prize this month. It is a fun candle. It's library scented. And it is made by one of our workers here. Her name is Val, and it's called Spell, Book, and Kindle. So you have this nice little candle. It smells fantastic. And it's super cute and fun.
So get yourself a bingo, and a candle, and a raffle ticket.
Yes.
So, alright. Cool. We will see you next week. Who knows what we'll be talking about? It's going to be historical fiction, but what kind? It's not this one. We did this one. Alright, we'll see you next week.